Who are we voting for? Meet the candidates. Who Are We Voting For was created so we could understand who the candidates are and what they are about. This is not an endorsement for any candidate. This is for the voter to be more educated about who we're voting for.
Hi, my name is Heather Schmidt Bresnahan. I'm the owner of Schmidt Bresnahan Law Group, a family law firm based out of Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania. I'm age 53. I'm born and raised in Dormont Borough. I have one sister. She's 5 years older than me, and she has two girls. And we have one great nephew and one on the way. So both my sister and my niece work with me. So it truly is a family law firm. My mom is 79. She lives in just 2 blocks away from me in the senior citizen high-rise in Dormont Borough. So it's nice because I get to see her frequently. My dad had passed away when I was 15. So up until that time, we were extremely close. He actually owned an art studio in Pittsburgh, and he was a commercial artist and designed all the Iron City beer cans through the 70s and the 80s. That was just one of the things that he did. But growing up, I would every Saturday, my parents were separated, so they separated when I was quite young, and on Saturdays or Sundays, he would get me quite early in the morning, and we'd go to breakfast, and we would take the trolley, it was the trolley at the time, down to his office in town. He was located at the time in it was right on Smithfield Street. It was like the 2nd floor, and I remember there was a beauty academy on top of that, but there was an arcade right across the street. So I loved going to his office because once he was done with work, we could go to the arcade and, you know, like play Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. Those were, I think, the 2 big things, you know, in the 70s, basically. So I was born in 1971, so it was still kind of like the hippy-dippy era. And, you know, my dad was an artist, so he had the long hair, and he only wore black T-shirts, black Hanes T-shirts with a pocket, Levi jeans, and motorcycle boots. And that was kind of his signature look. Maybe that's why my signature look is all black all the time. But I can hear maybe it was just easy, and I think that's why I do it, because I don't have to think about, you know, what goes with what. I can just throw on a black suit and take off for the day. So, I mean, up until my dad died, I had pretty much, you know, just the normal childhood. I had an older sister who was 5 years older. You know, I was a big pain. You know, obviously she loves me because we still work together. She's my biggest champion, my biggest supporter. But, you know, I'm sure I was a real pain when I was little. But yeah, I was always good in school. I was always, you know, pretty intelligent. I liked school. I was always a bookworm. My parents... some of my earliest memories are when we'd go to the mall, and there was a bookstore. It was called Walden Books at South Hills Village Mall. And my parents, back in that day, you could leave a child in the bookstore alone. And they would leave me, and I'd go around and get all my books. And they'd always get me whatever I wanted, but sometimes I'd be curled up and asleep in a bookshelf. And then they'd come get me and get all my books, because that's really what I loved to do. I was a voracious reader my entire life. When my dad got sick, I was in 9th grade, and he had cancer, so that was a really hard time. And then we spent like 4 months in the hospital once he was diagnosed with cancer in '87, and then he passed. So my dad had passed. He passed in 1987, and with a long bout with cancer. He was at Shadyside Hospital, and it was funny because I'd never really been to Shadyside, and I lived there for like 4 months. And I missed a lot of school. I actually pretty much flunked out of 10th grade because I missed so much school. I had to go to summer school for 2 years to catch up. But we used to go, and he used to give us his card, and we'd get down on Walnut Street, my sister and I, you know, wander around, and we'd always eat at Pamela's Diner. And we became obsessed with Banana Republic. Had just started there. So we bought him like all these crazy clothes, like a safari jacket and like a big hat because he had lost his hair with chemo. And so when he was like people, everyone would, all his art friends and things like that would come to visit. And it was crazy because you could still smoke in Shadyside Hospital back at the time. And so at the end of each hallway, he was on the 7th floor, there was like this big room with ashtrays and things like that, and he would wear like his safari jacket over his pajama bottoms and wear, his hat, and we would, like hang out. And at night, some of the nurses and I would get down and, get breakfast or so forth and just kind of wander the hospitals. And I used to just kind of wear scrubs, and I had these big Bullwinkle slippers that literally, they were Bullwinkle, if you remember that. So I used to everyone knew me because I was like the kid that lived at the hospital in the Bullwinkle slippers. So after my dad passed, my mom, we didn't have any money. They had money when they were together and he was making money, but my mom was uneducated. So she married my dad when she was 18. She met him when she was 12. And they dated ever, basically knew that they were going to get married, dated, etc. And then, so we cleaned houses, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I remember is I went to school, high school, and then we cleaned houses after school and on the weekends. And then I think maybe in 11th grade, I got a job selling Carhartt clothing at a men's used clothing store. So I did that after work, after school, and then on the weekends. And then after high school, I went to Sawyer Business School because no one in my family had gone to college ever, so it wasn't really expected for us to do that. So I decided, I'll become a travel agent. So I went to Sawyer, got my associate's degree in travel hospitality management, and began working at Royal Travel. So I worked for this lady, Vera Davis, and I remember, I used to say I was so Pittsburgh. I mean, I get afraid sometimes that I will fall back into it because I was so Pittsburgh and so Pittsburghese. And she used to turn around and she would write a word that I needed to stop saying, and she would put it on a Post-it, and like that would be the word for 2 weeks or so forth that she tried to get me to say. And so we sold junkets to Las Vegas. So the first time I had ever traveled or had been on a plane was with this woman, Vera Davis. I mean, she was just amazing. And I learned so much from her, but I remember we went out to Vegas, and she loved Frank Sinatra. And we went to the Caesars, and I remember her slipping like Mickey the maitre d', and it was a whole different world for me. I mean, I didn't even understand like this type of world. I was a kid from Dormont, and she's slipping hundreds, to get us a booth at the Riviera to see Frank Sinatra. So there was a different, like an eye-opening world, So, I loved working for her. I mean, she was so cool. I, learned so much. But then the Gulf War hit, and Royal Travel shut down. So I needed a job. My gram, and she had been a Democratic political volunteer for years. So I don't even know how it happened, but I ended up landing a job at the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office, in a full-time job. So I was working in their sentencing guidelines department. First I was in general trial, but then I went into sentencing guidelines. So did that, and then basically that's where the love of the law developed. That's how I fell in love with the law, was working there. I started at Point Park College at night. I went to Point Park College, got my bachelor's degree in poli-sci and international studies. And then some of the people at the DA's office said, why don't you go to law school? You could do this. So I applied for law school, and that changed the trajectory of my life. I became an attorney. I was named partner in quite a few firms, and then, now I have my own law firm. So I think that my 30 years legal experience and the fact that I've been a trial attorney concentrating in family law, which is divorce, custody, child support, protection from abuse matters, and so forth, I think that is a great basis to enter into this race for Court of Common Pleas. I think that I'm uniquely qualified because of my experience. It's extensive experience, and most people don't realize that the majority of people who will be elected are going to be placed into the family court. Whether they want to or not, it's kind of the baby training grounds for judges. We have the highest turnover rate of any of the courts because the majority of people don't want to be there, and I get it. You know, it's, if you didn't choose to be in family law, you didn't give your life to family law, if you're a criminal attorney or so forth, you're not going to want to be in family law. I mean, because it's very, very stressful. And to, you know, the family courts, it's a stressful time for anybody that's there. So, and for the judges, I think that it's probably very stressful because, you know, you're making really, really tough decisions, especially when you're dealing with custody or dependency cases or so forth. I think that my life experience helps me because I have gone through a lot of different things in life. And I have a very diverse background because I've worked pretty much every job you can work. You know, I've like from cleaning houses to bartending to working at the mini market, etc. So I've met people from all walks of life. I'm very empathetic to people. I'm very kind. I'm loving. I'm non-judgmental. So I think that uniquely qualifies me because I can look at people and I'm going to be fair to anybody. I'm not going to ever treat anybody with disrespect because that's just not who I am. I mean, I think that anybody that knows me, they would probably say that, you know, I'm a very kind, giving person. And I think that we need more of that in the courts. I think that we need people that truly care about people. You know, and I'm a hard worker. Like, I will work for the people of Allegheny County. So, yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up in terms of, you know, why I'd be qualified. For the past 23 years, I've been in the family courts, and we have the highest turnover rate of judges. The system was designed that it's supposed to be one family, one judge, so that if that family, say that family was involved with CYF, that's, you know, Children and Youth Services, when they were young, that one judge would know what, you know, what was the issues in that family? Were there drugs? Was it a split household? You know, was, or whatever reasons there were, but that one judge is supposed to follow that family so that they know what's going on. You know, and I'm not saying people are coming in and lying or so forth, but everyone wants to present themselves in the best light. So if, say, you had a drug issue or so forth, or maybe you have a violent temper or etc., if you get a new judge, sometimes people think well, let me get another bite at the apple, so I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try one in a new custody case, or et cetera, et cetera. And the fact is that, say it's a custody case, you can keep modifying custody up until those children are 18. I have a case right now where it's going to be the fourth judge. It'll be the second custody trial, but the fourth judge in a 5-year period because, you know, most judges, they get elected, you get placed into the family court. As soon as you get some seniority, if somebody moves, they allow you to move. So that one wants to go to criminal, that one wants to go to civil, or so forth. So really, 4 judges on second custody case within 5 years. So that's what I'm saying when I'm saying that there's a really high turnover rate in the family court. And that is not fair to the litigants or the attorneys whatsoever, because that judge should know that family. And that judge, like in this case that I have right now, it's the 4th judge. And this woman, like, honestly, this woman, she sees it, takes that opportunity. She's going to get another bite at the apple, see if she can convince this judge that she should have custody or so forth. That's not the way the system was designed, and it's not the way it should be. I mean, and also the backlog of family cases is enormous because the new judge comes in and then they get assigned all these cases, but then they go to, or they're supposed to research and learn about all these cases or so forth. So there's a huge backlog. I was talking to a woman at an event a few weeks ago over in the North Side that was saying that this is her 3rd judge in a period of 2 years, and that it's taken 7 months to get a conciliation on an issue because they're waiting on the new judge's schedule or so forth. And she asked me, what can you do to help the backlog? And I said, by being elected and staying in family court, my caseload, I can bring some stability and consistency. I don't want to leave the family court system. I'll retire from the family court system because I've already devoted almost 24 years of my life to family law. And actually, I was working in family law before I even graduated from law school. So I've probably devoted 25 years of my life to family law so far, 23 and a half of them being an attorney. So I'm not going to leave and be elected and then go into the civil division. What sense would that make? So I can bring stability to the family courts, and I think that that's a huge reason that I should be running. So hi, my name is Heather Schmidt Bresnahan, and I'm running for Court of Common Pleas because I do have the experience, temperament, compassion, and values that I think are so important to have in a sitting judge. I have been an attorney for over 23 years, and I've concentrated my practice in family law the entire time. For those of you who may not know, family law includes such things as child custody, divorce, child support, spousal support, protection from abuse matters, among others. Most of these things are very challenging and always emotional for all the parties. What many of you don't know is that you're going to know somebody, chances are, that's going to go through the family courts. So most people don't realize how important a judge is until it affects their life, basically. So if you have a child that's going through a child custody matter or a divorce or so forth, if you talk to any of your friends, somebody is going through the court system right now in the family court. And that's why it's so important, I believe, to have compassionate, elect experienced and compassionate judges to the bench. And I think experience is extremely important because I think that you have to have not just legal experience, but life experience. So I have that basically. I have an abundance of life experience, and I have over 23 years as an attorney in the family court system. So to give you a little background on me, I'm born and raised in Dormont Borough. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a local Pittsburgh artist who designed, among other things, all the Iron City beer cans in the 1970s and 80s until he passed in 1987. Fun family fact is that 1979, the Pittsburgh Pirates won the World Series. Well, my dad designed a can called We Are Family. And there's a pirate with a costume on the can, like the whole, hat and everything. And then there's a pirate with a baseball bat. I posed for that can. So if you go on my website, you can see the pictures of when I was 8 years old. I was holding a stick or something because the bat was too heavy. My dad liked to draw from real life, so he would do Polaroids of whatever he was doing. Like when he did the Renaissance thing, I remember there was this huge block at his studio. So there was a horn. If you go back on Google, the Renaissance can, Pittsburgh, or Iron City beer can, Renaissance can, that was like this huge thing in his studio. So so I'm on the can. It's pretty cool. People they'll come all around the county. They've collected it. I'll get emails saying like, oh my God, I can't believe your dad was I took those cans like I always, somebody was talking about like they still collect them or so forth. And so that's a little fun fact. Both of my grandfathers were union members. My mom's dad was a ruler in the steel mill, so he would have been a steel worker. And my dad's dad was a boilermaker. So big union family, obviously. My brother-in-law was a union member as well. My grandmother was a Democratic political volunteer who just lived for politics. I mean, she was insane about it. And she had me canvassing probably for the first time when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And one of the things that I've done on my campaign is I have the these emery boards that say Heather Schmidt Bresnahan. Well, one of the first things I remember is my grandmother always, for any of her candidates, had these emery boards made up. And so they could just, file your nails. And she used to say, They're going to throw away your literature, but they're never going to throw away an emery board. And she's right. I mean, people have gone nuts for them all over the county. So that's just like another fun fact about my grandma, that I wanted to do these emery boards in honor of her, you know. I think people should vote for me for Court of Common Pleas because I am uniquely qualified for this position. I bring 30 years of legal experience to the bench, and I have over 23 years as a trial attorney practicing in family law. And some people don't really realize that I'm in court all the time. I am doing real trials with, you know, evidentiary issues, huge discovery issues. If you don't understand, which most people won't, discovery is where you're getting all the documents and you're analyzing people's assets or incomes or different things like that. And sometimes I'm analyzing years and years and years of complex to find out, you know, maybe where the money's hidden or so forth. And that's just one of the discovery issues. And, you know, evidentiary hearings and so forth. So that's just one of the legal aspects on why I would be great, because I'll be placed in family court. That's where all the judges go. And I will be able to walk into that courtroom and know what I'm doing on day one. I'm not going to need training for this. And I think that sets me apart from the other candidates, obviously. Second is, I'm a good person. I'm fair. I'm empathetic. I truly, truly care for people. And I think that's something that is kind of lacking right now on some areas of the bench. And I think that, especially in family law, I think that that would be so important to have more judges who truly care for the people that, you know, they're presiding over their cases. And I really, truly believe that I could do so much good in the family court system. And I can help a lot of families of Allegheny County, as I've been helping families for the last 23 years. So please vote for me on May 20th. I'm number 4 on your ballot on the Democratic ticket. And if you're Republican, please take either a nail file or write down my name and write me in. Thank you.